Hey everyone, Sean Peers, the dental CEO maker and president of Dental Peers, the premier buying group or group purchasing organization for dentists in private practice here in Canada. And I am joined by one of the leading dental minds that we have here in Canada who knows so much about what's going on in the dental market, Timothy Brown from ROI Corporation. How are you doing today, Tim?
Exceptional. Thanks, Sean, and happy to be here on your show. It's our first time. We've known each other for years, but this is our first podcast together. So let's get to it. We know people got questions. Let's go.
I love it. I love the get down to business approach. Let's get diving right in. All right, we've had a lot of things happening in Canada, Tim, and I know that this is something that you have been following for a lot of years. You're concerned with where things are going from a macroeconomic climate and how that's going to affect the world of dentistry. And specifically, we all know that we've had a recent change within our most recent federal budget here in Canada that
Yep.
changed how capital gains are being taxed.
Right.
What impact are you seeing with respect to that in terms of the dental world and people? Are they in a rush to sell their practices, or were they, since the deadline, I guess, has been triggered now?
Basically, I would say the sentiment of the dental profession has been materially deflated. The reward system of becoming an entrepreneur and a dental practice owner is not just the income and the job satisfaction, patient interactions. There's so many reasons people want to be owners, but the carrot at the end of the stick for many Canadian entrepreneurs has always been the sale price when that exit event occurs. And for some people, that's decades away. And there was that little carrot that when I do all this and I come in early and I clean the toilet and fix my compressor and do all these things and stay late and call patients from home at night, all of that is a rewarding career, but there's this little reward at the end, which is the goodwill sale price. And that was typically taxed at a very low rate because it's typically a capital gain, and everybody has a little different situation, folks. So I say CYA. And Sean, that used to mean cover your ass. Now it means call your accountant. Okay. Call your accountant, CYA. Anyways, the reward system has been removed. So I'm an entrepreneur, Sean. You're an entrepreneur. Many of our viewers are business owners, and they're just calling me and going, "What's the point, man?
Yeah.
If it's just a job now, if I'm working this hard and I'm going to be paying, top tax rates of about 53% of my personal income, never mind all the consumption taxes, the HST taxes, the gasoline taxes, the alcohol taxes, all the other taxes we pay in life on top of our income. Somebody making, say, 200,000 a year or more, 75% of your income has gone to some form of tax at the end of the year, folks. So we're only keeping about 25% of what we actually make. And you still have to pay all the bills of your business in the process. And then that big reward, the carrot at the end of the stick, is now one of those little mini carrots you get at the grocery store that's been whittled down by a machine to a snack. And there's just no point. So that's what I'm hearing. That's the macro sentiment. And because of that demotivation and that deflation of the entrepreneurial spirit, the number of business owners that are ordering appraisals is skyrocketing. It certainly isn't my firm. I don't know about the others. I don't really talk to those guys, but they would appear busy, as we are. And people are going to sell because they're pissed off, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, normally when it's an actual carrot, I kind of like those little baby carrots, but not these
Yeah, you
ones.
want a bag of them, though. You don't want one.
And that's it too, and it completely also ignores the fact that, I mean, let's face it, regardless of what business adventure you go into, there's a risk. So many times these people, when they're going into establishing their own business, they're putting their own money forward to get things started. Sometimes it works out handsomely, and that's great. We should be happy and proud of and reward those people for being willing to assume that risk, but sometimes it doesn't. And if you're going to be looking at that and taking on that risk, like you say, where's the reward? Where's the reward for being willing to try to
Not there.
create jobs for other people?
It's gone. Pulled the
Yeah.
carpet out from under us. So I will. What entrepreneurs will then do is liquidate assets where they reside, and this happens all over the world. Whenever governments start doing these things, they will liquidate them. Some people will leave without paying their taxes and be tax evaders. That's a very serious crime. Don't do that. CRA will find you, folks.
Mhm.
Others will sell, will pay the withholding taxes and the exit taxes, and they'll leave Canada and they'll take their capital elsewhere where they think they can put it to better use. America comes to mind for many of my clients. Many of my clients, either some of them went to school in the United States to get a dental degree. Many of them have friends and family there, or just colleagues saying, come on down. And I'm hearing Texas, Arizona, Florida. They want to go to the warm states, of course, because that's where all Canadians want to go. And we do know that there's quite a bit of a mass migration in plan. It doesn't happen quickly. For most of us, it takes a year or two to get our affairs in order. We have to think about the kids, public schools, universities, the in-laws, the outlaws, where are we all going to go? But then the migration has begun and the professionals are leaving. I have a dental client who called me the other day and says, I have 3 grown children. They're all professionals in various professions. They've all left Canada already, Tim. They're all gone. My children are no longer here. They're all in America. And he said, I'm next. Give me about 1 year, Tim, and we're going to put this thing on the market and I'm out of here.
And that's a big one I've heard a lot too, right? Is not so much necessarily the generation that seems to, of our age, that maybe seems to feel a little bit more locked into the country, and leaving is that much harder, but it's that younger generation that is looking at it and they're saying, I could earn $150,000 here in Canada, which, and then pay, as you said, half to more of that in tax, or I could go down to some of these states that not only are they warmer, but they're either lower or no tax states in terms of at least income tax, and get paid in American dollars and keep more of it in their own pocket.
So I'm going to segue into what you talked about, the baby boomer. I'm 60. I think you're a little younger than me, but I know we're kind of locked in. This is our time. This is my nation. I'm looking at my window. I see my Canadian flag right here, proudly waving in the wind. When I was here on Canada Day, Sean, I looked out this window and I saluted my flag and I cried. I'm so sad for this
Yeah.
nation.
Yeah.
And I have children and grandchildren. I'm in a second marriage, so we're a blended family. We've got a lot of young ones. I have a 38-year-old son. We're almost locked in, but I don't have to be. I can change that because I'm just in that mindset where I'm demotivated, I'm angry, I'm I'm protesting against my nation by possibly packing up and marching over offshore, or at least south of the border, probably for me, probably Florida's the place, and taking my capital elsewhere. There's extreme cost to do that. There's a shocking amount of costs to to liquidate your assets. The cost of disposition is what we call them. Commissions, income taxes, capital gains taxes, withholding taxes, recapture depreciation taxes, exit taxes. Ladies and gentlemen, CYA, that means call your accountant. It's not a pretty financial picture to watch your personal net worth be eroded by upwards of 50%. This is net worth I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about income. I'm talking about the value of your Canadian assets. And yes, you can leave the country and keep some, or you can sell some. There's lots of things you can do, but it's very, very painful to even have these. And I cried looking at my flag, Sean. It's very sad.
I mean, I'm 58, so we're similar vintage. You're not much older than me. We're in that same era, more or less. I think I'm like one of the early Gen Xers. You might be one of the late baby
I'm
boomers,
the
I
last
guess.
of the baby boomers.
Yeah,
63, I
and
was
I'm
born.
I'm
I'm the last
amongst
of
the
the
first
boomer
of the
breed.
Gen Xers. So, there's not a huge discrepancy between the two of us on that front. And I feel the same way. I mean, I'm like you. I've always been what I consider to be an extremely proud Canadian, but I share your sentiment. I look at it and I feel, can I afford to still be a proud Canadian, I guess is the bottom line. And it's a sad thing to feel that way. And obviously right now it's too late to avoid the latest increase in the capital gain. But as you said, I mean, that's the proverbial straw breaking the camel's back. People are still going to have to look at the other aspects of taxes that they're paying, and maybe
Yep.
that's the thing that they're looking to avoid. But as you said, it's not easy to go through that. Liquidating your business possessions and so many other aspects comes at a huge cost, lots of fees that have to be paid. I mean, when you call your accountant, when you CYA, your
That's a
accountant,
fee.
that's a fee, and it's not going to be an inexpensive one. You'll have to call your lawyers as well, no doubt, and
Yep.
there's going to be big fees associated with that. So it's hard. It's hard for these dentists to make those decisions. And So I mean, you're sitting there saying that you're seeing an increase in the number of appraisals. So I'm assuming those appraisals are going to ultimately lead to practices going on the market.
They usually do. That's this, my dad started the company 50 years ago in 1974. There is a very direct and distinct chart between the volume of appraisals and the volume of listings. It's a
Yeah.
simple chart, and it's a line that goes like that. And every year we get more appraisals and every year we get more listings because that's just the phenomenon of the business I'm in. Let me just say that, a lot of people stop me and go, oh, but there's going to be a new government. The conservatives are going to get in. Trump's going to get in the States. Palev's going to get in Canada. Well, probably. I think most of us are agreeing that's now a high probability. But do you know how long it takes to turn the Titanic around, folks? Like, a new government is not going to be able to change much. A new government, even if they do, they're still inheriting a massive bag of debt that they
Hmm.
cannot just erase off the books. So it's going to be 3 to 5 years before the Canadian economy has any meaningful economic change in terms of real stimulus, real economic growth, real interest rate relief. So it's 3 to 5 years away. And by then I'm 65. So I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait anymore. It's just too much time sitting around paying out 75% of my income in some form of tax and then not getting that big carrot at the end of the stick, getting the little stubby one. So even though there is some hope for a change in political views, I doubt it's going to have any meaningful impact for a long time, folks. And if you want to sit around and wait for it, if you're 30 or 40, hurry up and wait. When you're 58 and 60, like Sean and I, the time's running, the clock's running on us. How long will we live? How much longer do we want to work? For what reward system are we working for? So, and let me stop right there and then say, but Sean, look at where you're sitting. I'm in Northern Ontario. Look at my backdrop. I'm looking out at my lake right here. We have boats, we have freedom, we have fresh water and air. There's so many things I love about Canada. Where are you right now, Sean?
I'm on the Big Rito, which like for up in the Ottawa Valley area, this is our cottage country, right?
And look at the background. You're on the water. We've got nature. We have everything that people all over the world dream of.
Hmm.
Fresh water, a safe nation. We have security. We have healthcare. Say what you will about politics. It's better than a lot of countries I've visited. Let me tell you. Anyways, it really is a very, very difficult conversation. I did choke up a bit when I looked out at my flag again just now. This is going to be a very, very painful and expensive process for me, but I'm done. They have demotivated me. And you don't do that to entrepreneurs. We are the backbone of this economy. We buy the equipment, we hire the staff, we invest, we advertise, we create economy, and you have made me angry, so I will go.
Yeah, it's a sad reality, and I don't think you're alone from things that I've seen on news articles, from things that I've heard
Many,
from other
many
people that I've
thousands.
spoken with, and in the dental world now, I mean, obviously with everything that happened in the world post-COVID, we saw inflation go through the roof, we saw interest rates rise, and that probably prompted a bit of a slowdown in the ability to sell practices.
Not
Um,
anymore. The
but well,
market's
that's
hot.
the thing. I mean, we're now seeing a world where okay, inflation is kind of stabilized. I'm not. It's not necessarily meaning that we're seeing prices come down, but at least we have a more predictable market, and we all know
Yeah.
that's what people look for is the predictable market, right? And we're seeing that happening now. We're seeing interest rates seeming to stabilize. So when you look at that, what what are you seeing in terms of how those things are impacting also the world of transactions? Are you seeing a lot more people willing to not only to try to sell, but are you seeing buyers stepping up now?
Yeah, we've never lost the buyer motive. Canada has a horrible oversupply of dentists. They keep coming every year because there's no barrier on the NDEB number of entries, applications, and exam. I think you get 3 attempts, but on the exam, but we have 16, 17, 1,800 new dental licenses being initiated in Canada every year. My firm, all the other firms, everybody selling is less than half of that. So every year we have twice as many people entering as we have exiting. And it's just like take a ballroom at a hotel. You can only put so many people in the room. And if the exit door is only letting 700 out and they're pushing 1,700 in, you have a very, very crowded space. And it's been like
Mhm.
that for well over a decade. So we have so many motivated buyers that have come here from all over the world. Many of them were business owners in other nations before they came here. When they find out Canadian banks give 100% financing on our company's appraisal, they salivate and they jump at the market. So we have a really, really vibrant purchaser, buyer, demand side. The supply side's always been light. During the pandemic and just previous to that, the corporates were sucking up a lot of the practices by going direct. They were buying direct, going direct, persuading people you don't need the intermediaries. And that worked well for them for a while. They are dead stop right now in the water. They have very serious financial troubles. I'll let other people talk about that. I don't want to get on their back, but they're done for a while. They're not gone, but they're not very good. They're quite impotent right now. Let me be very clear about that. So now we're back to a more normalized market where supply is coming to market for all to consider because the brokers are getting the supply again. So we see a pretty decent supply, nowhere near enough to match the demand. And when you have very, very high demand and short supply of anything, you're probably going to have high prices, which we do. Interest rates have had no material impact on the value of practices. They certainly impact debt servicing and cash flow for the purchaser, but there's still plenty to go for some of these very successful practices, which is typically what our firm attracts as kind of the top of the game. If I could brag a bit, we get the winners. So a little bit extra interest isn't going to stop these people. So owners are getting ready because of aging population and then the demotivation factor we've talked about. So supply will probably increase. It will not meet the demand. So we're probably going to have continuing stable prices. My prediction is stable for the next 2 to 3 years. I don't think they should go any higher right now because just cash flow and debt servicing needs. They're certainly not going to come down though. So for buyers, sorry, prices aren't coming down. For owners, I think you're at where you're going to be in terms of sale price for the next 2 to 3 years. The only thing that would materially change that is as an owner, if you're really growing your business and growing your bottom line, just don't grow the top line, folks. If you're not growing the bottom line by employing someone like Dental Peers and Sean, to preserve overheads, lower costs on supplies in particular, lab supplies, you can't do anything about wages, folks. We're all doomed to high wages. Suck it up and deal with it. But you can deal with your supplies, your lab, and your landlords. Most of us can't affect that. And those are your top four: wages,
Yep.
supplies, lab, and rent. So supplies, call Sean. Lab, call your lab guys. See what you can do. That's about it, though. And
Yeah.
so materially changing your practice may change value, but most of the people that are probably watching this are somewhere like 60 years like you and me. And I don't have that much gas left in the tank to just go grow my business another 20% in the next 2 years to try to sell it for another $500,000 and then pay 66% of that in tax. Not going to do it. Not going to happen, folks. No way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you mentioned too. I mean, I was speaking recently with some of the health department bankers at some of the big banks in Canada, and they're saying, yep, I mean, they have not changed. It's still full
Still there.
financing is more than available. Obviously, we were looking at slightly higher interest rates, but I mean, you and I come from an era where we can still look at it, and we once would have looked upon, 5, 6% interest rates as being, wow, what a deal.
My first mortgage when I was a young kid was 18%,
Exactly.
18.2 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
No,
That's
things. I think I'm going to do a quick summary here, if you don't mind, Sean.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, the market for dental practices in Canada is stable for the foreseeable future. Interest rates will come down a tiny bit. It doesn't have any impact on value when they come down 25 basis points or a quarter of a percent. That doesn't change anything materially. Psychologically, it's a nice thing. It makes buyers feel a little better because at least we're not going in the other direction. The number of buyers is only going to continue to grow because of the NDB, and there's no barrier on the entry limits there. There's no max, there's no cap. The Canadian economy is, quite frankly, in deep trouble right now because of our public debt. We have many, many decades and generations to pay that off. So no matter what government's in power, I don't see much hope. The demotivation, the deflation is there. It's real. And ideally, the good news is that there should be a little more supply coming to market because of the pissed off baby boomer dentist owners. That's my summary.
Yeah, and that's I'm not going to say great summary, accurate summary, good summary. I mean, great in the sense that it certainly covers everything that we talked about. I mean, that if I know people that are looking to sell their practices or anything like that, Roy Corporation is the corporation I send people to. It's my brokerage of choice. People wanted to reach out to you, find where you are, Tim. How do they get a hold of you?
In the bottom left of my screen, you'll see my website, roycorp.com. I can be found there, roicorp.com. And I'm all over LinkedIn, like Sean is. Sean, you're very active on LinkedIn, much more than I am. So that's how people can find me if you use that medium, but our website's always there. And what all I would say, and this is a little self-promotional, but put an appraisal on your practice doctor. Just call somebody. Hopefully you'll call my firm, but call somebody. And there's 3 excellent firms in Canada that do great work that the banks love. If you want to know who they are, you can call Sean or I. Obviously, my firm is one of them, or I wouldn't mention that. Um, get an appraisal from one of the premium companies, put it in the vault, go to work, and just know that if anything happens, because stuff happens, that appraisal is very easy for the company to refresh and update than to start from scratch under duress. That is very self-promotional. Yes, I sell appraisals for a living, but the appraisal is now an elective product. It's no longer an elective product. It's an essential, and it's like having a will and life insurance. You need all 3 of those things in the vault: your will, your life insurance, your dental practice appraisal. Lock them up, get digital copies over to your lawyer and your accountant, and go to work and live. But be ready, because anything can happen to anybody.
100%. And I do not sell appraisals for a living, and I do not make any money from people that I might send to Roy Corporation. And I can tell you, I've long been an advocate of saying, you need that appraisal. It is part of your retirement plan. You go and see your investment advisor to see how your stocks, your mutual funds, any your GICs, you're probably doing that on an annual basis. You need that appraisal because that is part of your retirement plan. So get
Thanks for
that
saying that.
done. What's
Thanks for
that?
saying that, John.
Yep.
And Roy Corp does not receive or accept or pay referral fees to anybody, but I thank you for saying that. It's been great to be with you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Tim, it's always a pleasure to chat. And people, if you are looking for getting that appraisal done, I certainly recommend you reach out to Tim or another member of the Roy Corp team. Thanks for being here. Wish we could share better news on the economic front, but you confront reality and just have to deal with it and make your decisions being fully informed. And Tim, you did a great job informing people. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sean.